Welcome, Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters guests. This is a PR Masters Toastmasters Club, and we are going to have a good time because we are going back to basics tonight. I wonder what that means. Are we going to build a foundation? I think so. So with that, I would like to welcome our guests specifically, but we won't ask Juanita to speak today because she has elected to draw a bye and not talk, but she will be listening in. I'd like now to turn to Fred and have Fred describe the timers row.
Thank you, David. Yes, I am the timer tonight. I will be timing the speakers and the table topics and the evaluators. Once I know the time for the speaker, they'll see the green at the minimum time. Oh, I got to turn off my virtual. Let me take off my virtual background here. Green, yellow, and red, but I will change my background to normal. So back to you, David.
Thank you, Fred. I would like to now introduce our general evaluator, and Marcy, describe what the general evaluator is going to do. I don't see Marcy. Okay, so we'll hold that one for a while. Tonight we have a special presentation. It's a discussion panel discussion, and Matthew is going to lead that discussion, and the evaluator. Okay, so we'll just turn it over to Matthew and let him run with it. Take it away, Matthew. Tell us about that panel discussion. What are we going to do?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. We have a panel discussion today about getting back to basics for a VPPR. Since it's the start of 2022, many VPPRs are thinking about how they want to engage and create a plan for the coming calendar year. And so as a group, we thought it would be great for us to have a panel discussion where we have an opportunity for some crosstalk and for some ongoing discussion on topics related to getting back to basics. We have three panelists today who I want to introduce. The first one is Cleon Cox. He's a distinguished Toastmaster with many decades of experience as a Toastmaster. We have Mr. Eric Winger, also DTM. Eric is a fabulous Toastmaster. He has won every contest known to man and is a very active Toastmaster in our district. And finally, we have our own Carissa Yang, who has been a VPPR several times herself. And the three of them, along with myself as a facilitator, are going to start to weigh in on some different ideas. Following that, we'll have some table topics, which will allow all of us to continue that discussion based on the themes and the different ideas that get presented. Sound good, everybody? All right, let's get to it. So my first question for the panel is, it's a new year. What do you think is the first thing that a VPPR should be doing, and why is that?
Is this just open, Matthew, or are you going to call on us?
Nope, just open right now.
Okay, the first thing you should do is figure out if you should talk at the meeting or not. It's not a bad way to start. I bet Chris has got a great answer for this, so I'm just going to throw something out there to get her speaking. But doing something, literally do something the first day. You know, take today and go do something. If you haven't started on tasks yet, just start. So just start out. Now, Chris has got a better answer for you.
Well, we are talking about this in my club, my home club. And we had just elected a new VPPR. So I am suggesting membership's a concern. It's always a concern. So let's brainstorm about who we can reach out to. And my approach is, where can we have a lot of impact? You know, we all want to ask us members, maybe invite our friends always, but is there a newsletter we can hop into? Is there an email list we can join to get our message out? Send it out once, but reach 100 people. And you craft that message well, and you can send it to several such groups, customizing it to each target audience. And I'm really trying to hopefully invite my home club officers to brainstorm about this and really make that roll out. But also reach into your heart and think about what made me love Toastmasters in the first place. So that feeds that message, and hopefully it can be felt in that blurb. You don't want it to be too long, but felt in that message that you send out for outreach.
Yeah, I think Krista has a good point about reaching out to groups of people who are familiar. I know for a lot of us with the pandemic, right, our clubs previously were often geographically oriented or related to a time, you know, that was convenient for people in a certain geography. And we don't necessarily have those limitations anymore. So you do have an ability to reach out to different groups of people, for sure. So Steve Jobs was once asked to share some of his best advice for success. And his answer was, ask for help. He told a story about how when he was 12 years old, he picked up the telephone book and he looked up Bill Hewlett's telephone number from Hewlett Packard and called him and said that he wanted to borrow some spare parts in order to build a frequency counter. And he said that he not only got the spare parts that he wanted, but he got a summer job working at Hewlett Packard on the frequency counter assembly line. As VPPRs, sometimes we need to ask for help. And my question for, let's see here, we'll talk with Cleon is, as a VPPR, who should you be asking for help from, and what kind of help can you ask for?
Thank you very much, Matthew. From my perspective, I would recommend and I would suggest people talk to everybody, because you have some people, even from Toastmasters, who've never done it here, but they've done it elsewhere. So therefore, you don't know who knows what until you talk with them. It gets down to personal relationship building, and just get to know the rest of your club members. Even if you're somebody who's been in the club for years, it doesn't hurt to sit down and just to have a slight chat with them, get to know them some more, and then say, this is what I'm looking for, is some assistance from you, and who can you recommend to me, whether it be in the club or from another club, because many of us know people from other clubs. Many of us know people from other parts of the world. So therefore, you have that. But it's always fun to get to know them, and then from that point, build your rapport with them. And then you can begin to put together your plan, because now you're the person in charge. And so why not find out what they know, like Matthew had said, and Eric and Carissa. So that would be my first thinking, is get to know the people all, so that you can make the most of it, and then you'll begin to put your program together.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, right? I think a lot of times a VPPR thinks that he or she needs to take the whole load on themselves, right? They're responsible for recruiting everybody. And the reality is that your club is full of people who might know people, but maybe are a little nervous about talking with them. And so in that respect, we can certainly, as Toastmasters, look inside our clubs, right?
I think it might,
Eric, when you've been a club officer, have you found that some of your new members have come in through your existing club membership? I.e. friends of or colleagues of your current members?
Yes, yes, absolutely. We had people, there was a book that came out, and somebody in this group's going to know what it is. Came up, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, maybe. And there's a concept called a maven. And I don't remember the book, but I remember the concept. And some people are mavens. They just know lots of people. And there are always a few people in your club who know lots of people. And those are the people that often find it, they're more comfortable reaching out to that group of people they know and just inviting people. And if you can identify one or two of those people in your club and encourage them to speak positively of Toastmasters and what it's done for them, then that's going to set a precedent, because they'll start talking to people, and little by little, people will come as guests, and that's going to infect the rest of your club and your team. And other people say, wow, if they can invite someone, maybe it's okay for me too, even though I'm really shy. I've got friends, maybe I can just talk to them. It takes a little time, but yes, absolutely. It's one of the best sources is a personal recommendation from a member.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, right? Those peer-to-peer recommendations are so powerful. And honestly, that drives a lot of e-commerce, right? You'll see products and they have reviews next to them. It'd be written by somebody you don't even know. Steve from Ohio or something like that says, this is the best thing I ever purchased. And you think to yourself, well, if Steve likes it, I bet I would too. I think that kind of logic can certainly apply to a product like Toastmasters. Next question I have, I'm gonna aim at Carissa. I think in many ways, the Toastmasters has undergone an evolution moving towards digital, right? We used to have books and now we have pathways. And I think in many ways, a lot of the tactics that VPPR used to have are sort of Polaroid in an Instagram world. So from your perspective, what are some maybe small, not scary things that a VPPR can do to embrace digital or social media and potentially attract people?
Well, I think you have to meet your VPPR where they are comfortable, but also ask them what they're interested in. We have some VPPRs who aren't big on social media, but maybe they would be interested, willing to learn one thing, whether it's Canva that we've talked about. Some people don't like Facebook. Fine, how about LinkedIn? That's more appealing to many people because it's a professional platform, not Facebook, which could be a little more contentious. Some people will be on Instagram, but not Facebook. So meet them where they are. You want them to have fun, right? It's not going to work unless they're enjoying what they're doing. So I think there's going to be something there that's a good fit. And I even said, I'm talking to my new VPPR, who's not on any social media really. Well, she's on LinkedIn, but she hasn't been big on it, but she's a writer. So take whatever skill they have and love and grow that make that a bridge. She likes writing, great. You can help improve our flyer, which happens to be easily emailed because it's a nice PDF, and we'll make a nice version that some of the rest of us can share on Facebook and LinkedIn. And her job can be more of being a cheerleader for that, tagging us, learning to tag us, encouraging us to cast that barter net along with her. And that enforces the idea that it's a team effort also. I mean, I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, I know that you've had some success in the social arena with LinkedIn. Would you be willing to share some of that with us now?
Did I have success in the social LinkedIn arena?
Sharing posts about your
Yes,
clubs.
thank you.
Right.
You had to remind me what my success was, because I've also had a lot of failures there too. Paying for any social media is a complete waste of time, in my opinion. Others may differ in their opinions, but I have certainly found that I didn't do much with paid posts. But what did attract attention was when we did a couple things over the last year, and we did, in particular, two. We had a 2020 kind of a look back, and we got each member to agree to submit a photograph with just a blurb about what they most appreciated at the end of the year 2020. And we put those up, and those got a lot of traction, got a lot of likes, because people would share them on their own LinkedIn homepages and feeds. And then we also did a video snippets that were little marketing segments with I think 6 or 7 different members. And those also got a lot of traction and a lot of visibility, and were shared quite a lot because people would just talk in a natural way about what they liked about Toastmasters. Simple, short, got a lot of plugs for the club in there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how social media, whether it's a Facebook or a LinkedIn, can allow people to amplify a message, right?
Yes, and I add one thing I should need to add on that, especially the video project. I had a team of 3 people directly working on the videos, capturing video, working to connect with members. And then I had 7 or so other people working in the club to help out. So this is not just one person doing it. It was definitely a team effort.
My next question is for Cleon, and actually see something in the chat very much about what I was going to ask, which is, Cleon, so, some of us certainly are in or belong to smaller clubs, right? They haven't necessarily sustained the large membership that we usually look for in a club of 20 members, 15 members even. And many of our clubs have shrunk. They're under 10, potentially even 5 members. What advice would you give to a VPPR in 2022 who belongs to one of those very small clubs, and for whom all of this could be a very large lift, right? There's not necessarily a large team to go ask for help.
That's a broad-based one. Lots to think about. Before I address that specifically, I want to revert back to something I think I heard Carissa mentioning, and that is when you talk to other people, even when they're in different fields or they don't want to this or they don't want to that. One of the things I find is when you talk to people, you also, if you're listening well, they will say things that have nothing to do with what it is that you're after. But if you listen deeply, it will trigger your brain. It'll go off in another direction that will help you. So in other words, even when you talk to somebody who doesn't understand, you never know what they're going to say that will trigger your brain. That being said, moving forward to your question, and I've been there, wasn't my club, but I've been to the spot to where I was asked to come in and coach a club. And the first thing is to get commitment from the rest of the members. They have to all be willing to do something or give it a try. And then you have to start thinking. And sometimes, yes, you have to think harder when you're that small because you've only got a few. But at that time, ask your area director or your division director, do you know somebody that I could speak with? Start that way if you don't have all the ideas. And even if you do have the ideas, maybe you'll wind up with a new idea. But that you have to be busy, no getting around it. It takes time. And then at that point, you encourage your own members. I always remember so many clubs I've been around. The one piece that people throw out there is like, well, if each of you will bring in just one new member, just think we'll have 8 new members here in the next week. And so far, I've never seen that happen. I'm not blaming anybody. The fact is everybody means to do it, but it's not on their priority list. It's not in front of them that they want to do this. And so the other thing is how can you motivate them to do just a little bit more, just a little bit? So I think I've probably run up against time because I have a story, but I'll let the time go at this time. Thank you.
Do either of the other panelists, my panelists, want to jump in on that one?
Small clubs are tough.
Mhm.
One possible way to build some energy is to have a special meeting and just invite a bunch of other Toastmasters to fill the room, and then try to get some guests there. So you get that energy. And so a guest comes in, and instead of seeing 5 members, they see 12 or 13. And that may be a quick and easy way to just get people in the door. But Cleon's right. It's just encouraging everybody to do a little bit more and finding something that they're comfortable with.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with VPPR, who is new to the role this year. And she asked me this question, which I thought was a neat one, and I'm gonna open it up to the panel at large. But the question was, how do I introduce somebody to Toastmasters without it sounding like you're a bad speaker? Because the pitch that I want to share is I've learned so much from Toastmasters, right? But it can sometimes feel daunting to have that one-on-one conversation with somebody where you're like, you should really come check out Toastmasters. To this new VPPR, what would you say?
Just so we don't have 7 minutes of dead air here. That's a heck of a good question. There's probably no one particular thing you can say because every individual is unique and they all have unique triggers that inspire them to action and triggers that repel them. One of my biggest things I learned because of being a VPPR was that if you take an action in a marketing way to market something or to promote something, and you get a reaction that's negative, a lot of times you'll just want to quit. In other words, you go up to this person, you say whatever you're going to say, and they don't want to go. Okay, that's human nature. We don't like to do things unless we choose them. But if you take the approach of drip, 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 little by little, bring out, put a little, if you're in a cube together or something, you put a little sign out inviting everyone to the next meeting. So the next time he walks in or she walks in, they see that. And then you casually mention in conversation, no plug or anything, just, hey, I went to Toastmasters today and guess what? I won this cool Toastmasters ribbon. Look at me, I'm great. Make fun of yourself, whatever, but you just drip, drip, drip in, and eventually the interest might start to come around. No guarantees.
Yep. Yeah, I think one of the points that I guess I wanted to make as part of this panel is simply that right? We think about PR efforts or marketing efforts as big, broad strokes, reach 100 people, reach 1,000 people. But at the end of the day, we're really looking for one person to say like, oh yeah, I think I'm interested in trying this and it being better. So it's very much about making that personal connection. And that's where that's where exposing people to it can certainly help. Cleon, jump on in.
So that takes me to a piece of that. And for me personally, I never asked them to come and try it, or you should do this. I would never tell them that they need it. I don't tell anybody they need it. But I just ask them, we talk about it and I slide into it. It's part of my, I can't think of the word I want, but it's part of just my makeup of how I talk to people. And I do mention Toastmasters in it because over the years, I've heard so many stories, and there's bits and pieces of many people's stories. And I'll be talking to somebody totally out of Toastmasters, and something they say will bring to my mind. And I'll say, a friend of mine from Toastmasters gave us this speech about this. Then I'll give them the piece that I want to share that the speech was about. And so, but I was able to use the word Toastmasters, of which I get probably maybe a 5%. Like, I've heard about that. What is that? Tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Now I get to explain to you briefly, and I'm able to do that because they even asked for it. I'll put in the chat. I have a boilerplate, shame on me, but I have a boilerplate that I send out on LinkedIn when people want to connect with me, whether I know them or not. And many of them, I don't know them. They're from all over the world. And I don't know what the results have joined Toastmasters, but it's very simple. And so I put that in there. And I would say approximately 8 to 10% of the people will come back and say, what is that? Why do you mention it? How would I find out about it? And then I come back and I just give them toastmasters.org. And the one that was the most interesting to me was the lady from China someplace. I was speaking, somehow she wanted to connect. I connected with her, and I don't remember how we got to the topic. I probably sent that to her, and she comes back and she says, I've heard of Toastmasters. I'm in China. Can I go to that? And I said, oh, of course, you can visit. You just go to toastmasters.org, find a club in your area. And she says, well, I'm going to be going to Germany in a few weeks. And could I do that there too? I said, oh, of course you can. And she got back to me a couple of times and just says she had reached out, reached somebody in Germany, and she was looking so forward to going there and meeting them to find out more about Toastmasters. Now, this is back when we were meeting in person.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, now that's a far-fetched one. Somebody from China going to Germany is going to check it out. I don't know if she joined or not. Since I do this for free, then I figure I don't have to follow up to find out. But over the years, right in District 7, I've seen people who's come to my support group, wound up joining Toastmasters later. And I didn't get credit, but I don't care, because if you want to join, I'm happy that you came. And then what's really fun is when I run into them at a TLI or a district conference and they say, hey, I just thought I'd like to let you know that I've joined Toastmasters, and I'm elated. Does it happen very often? No, but it's just I don't worry about it happening. I've had people complain to me that said, I should have done this years ago when you mentioned it. I says, don't worry about it. Just move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's all past history. Well, how come I didn't do it? I should have, because you weren't ready. Well, I should have been ready. Okay, move forward. It's just different ways. I don't even offer them. I tell them they'll be asked their name and what brought them there, and then go from that point. So that because I find as soon as you talk about speaking or something, they'll first look at their watch and say, I don't know if I can make it that day. And I'll say, what day would you like to go? I go into all that, and they're like, God, you don't give up. Because once they've opened the door, I'll give them a couple, and then I stop. I just drop it off, and it's up to them. So it's just part of the repertoire, and I don't do it all the time. I don't look for it. I don't ever go out to sell anything.
Yeah.
I go out to have fun. That's my mantra. Have fun, meet people, and learn something.
Well, this panel has been very much a fun time for me. I think we have surfaced a lot of really great ideas, and I'm excited to continue the discussion with our table topics master, Adam, and the rest of the folks who are in attendance here. So with that, I'm going to bid everybody adieu for my part, but thank you for letting me facilitate this panel.
Toastmaster, do I just take it away?
Pick it up and run with it. That's a good enough introduction for me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, David, and thank you, Matthew. So I think you'll all agree with me that there was a lot of really, really good content in the panel discussion. But some of you might be wondering, like, gee, that was almost too good to be true. Did Matthew secretly like feed these questions to the panelists? Like, what's going on behind the scenes, huh? Anyway, I promise you, I was involved in the behind the scenes, and there was nothing of that sort. But in case you do want to put everyone, if you're a guest or if you are a member and you want to put everyone on the spot, now is the chance to do it. So bring it on. So now I'm going to open it up to everyone, guests, members, everyone, to either unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can post the questions on the chat. I'm going to try and do my best to bring it up to the audience to answer these questions. If possible, let's keep the focus on these questions more towards like general VPPR responsibilities, maybe if possible, like for first-time VPPRs, but anything related to VPPR overall is all good. So any questions? And the way it's going to work is, like I said, you can either unmute yourself, or if you're feeling shy, if you don't want to come on video, I'd be happy to take these questions to the audience. And the way we will do the answering of these questions is please use the raise hand feature if you want to speak. And let's try to keep the responses to like around 60 seconds to 2 minutes. Sound good? Okay, let's get started. I think we already have a few questions popping up. So, one of our guests, Meghna, has a question. Any examples of small things you did that led to surprisingly big wins in PR? Is this directed to the general audience?
Yes, especially those with experience in PR at Toastmasters.
Okay, there you go. Any takers for that question? Okay, I see Maren. Maren, you want to go ahead first, and then we'll follow on with Marcy.
Absolutely. I like that question. What are those small things that you did that led to surprisingly big wins? So particularly in 2020, and we're still virtual, we're still remote, by activating our Facebook group to a greater level, whether it's a simple post. For us, our meetings are on Saturdays, on Sunday, announcing the next week's theme. You just type it in, you change the color, and you put it out there. And then we also did one post later in the week with a little more detail. 2 things and a follow-up photo, 3 posts a week. Members who hadn't been coming to the club, who were now remote and in a pandemic too, they saw that activity. We were having a good time. It was exciting. And they came back to the club and rejoined. So it was really quite simple. And it was 3 posts a week. Just thinking about how to take a screenshot, how to write just a simple typed in Facebook post, and maybe make one other thing.
Thank you, Marcy. I think that almost aligns with Eric's trip. So small steps, totally love that. Marcy, do you want to?
I'm excited to share about Toastmasters, and one of the things is to provide the opportunities and show other people that it is fun at Toastmasters, that we're having fun when we're together. And sharing those successes that I have is bringing people forward. And what I've learned is taking pictures of our members when they got their icebreaker, when they finished their first level, the shy ones that we never ever saw before. All of a sudden, they've got the display, they've got that coach, and they're bringing it on. And then they're sharing it, they're seeing their pictures, other members are commenting on it. So we're teaching our members that they need to like, share, and comment. That is important. But first, make sure that they join you on your Facebook page or on your group. They say, we're here. Have you signed up and joined with us yet? And I know that every time I take a post that a VPPR puts and I put it onto my own personal page, man, it just spikes things up in comments. I'm getting cards and notes from friends of mine that I haven't heard from ages. Though, so that's a small win, is just me sharing, but not just sharing it as it is, adding my own comment and take on it. I hope that helps a bit.
I'm sure that did. And love that sharing and having fun. And I think with Marcy, I think her energy just comes through the screen. So she pretty much exemplifies the fun aspect of it. Appreciate that answer. Okay, Eric.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Marcy, for bringing the energy, and Marin for the drip, drip, drip comment. Here's a drip that might get you more splash. Your members are having successes in their personal lives. If you can put a post out on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever social media you're comfortable with, celebrating their success, and share that on their pages, you would be amazed at how many people will like and comment on your post. For example, the one I was thinking of is we had a member last summer who got into grad school, and that got celebrated on our page. And I don't know how many bazillion likes came out of that. So for an easy win, just talk to your members and celebrate their successes, even if they're not directly related to the club. And you'll get a lot more bang for your buck.
Love that idea about sharing personal successes. Yep, Marcy, go ahead.
Adam, I just want to add on to what Eric said. One of the things that one of our clubs here in District 42 did is every time one of their members finishes a level, they acknowledge it on their LinkedIn page. As a result of that, that person, they've had at least one of their members has had their supervisor, who is a non-Toastmaster, all of a sudden has recognized that they've acquired other skills. It starts another conversation. Therefore, it's a simple thing that our VPPRs can do in acknowledging and putting the mark, especially if you have a LinkedIn account for your club, is mark it off and say, they did this and this is the skill they acquired. And then fellow members going on and commenting, saying, you did a great job. This is really wonderful. And it'll transfer directly over for those members into their professional lives. And which is what most of us are here for, is to make a difference in our professional lives.
Yeah, I love that. I think that really translates to demonstrating the value of Toastmasters, and at the same time, getting to know some of these people outside of Toastmasters, what's going on in their personal lives. So definitely love that. One of the questions I'm trying to go back to some of the older ones is, have you had any success, and again, open to the broader audience, have you had any success with the recurring community events on the calendar when it comes to Toastmasters? Any takers to on that question? And I believe this question was from Marin. So if you want to clarify that, or I hope I did a good job of explaining what you meant to ask.
Sure, I always mean to do this and I haven't, but there are many organizations that have reoccurring calendars and public content. So I keep thinking, okay, what chambers of commerce, should we reach out to and say, hey, can you put this information on your calendar? And as long as your Zoom link isn't changing, the information doesn't change. Or instead, you can connect them to your website and hopefully that information is up to date. So just between like public libraries, chambers of commerce, Rotary, different groups that might be looking for opportunities for people and content, I'm wondering if anyone has had any success with that strategy.
Can I just jump in here?
Sure.
Carissa here. We've had some success. The two main calendars we used aren't exactly what you're talking about. My home club is hosted by OHSU, which has a large employee base, and we post to their intranet calendar. So it's not public, but 17,000 employees potentially, and students and volunteers can see this calendar. And a lot of our guests are drawn in by that because they see it. It's the first thing on Wednesday mornings. That's part of why it's 7:15 a.m. The other calendar we're on is the neighborhood adjacent to OHSU is the South Waterfront District. And that goes both in print and email. And we do get people from that too. It was just great for us because it's we sent it at once, we revise it as necessary. So it's not a lot of efforts, and it's definitely one of our biggest draws.
Thank you, Carissa. Eric, did you want to add to that?
Oh, I'm Carissa's internet at OHSU has got to be a great one if everybody's using it. I haven't had much luck with community calendars. I have two thoughts real quick. One, I think that a lot of community calendars are buried. So unless you really know an organization and know how to get and use their calendar, you're not going to get much traction out to the general public. However, though, if you are interested in finding out how much traction you're getting, you can set up contact links on those community calendars that go specifically to somewhere else. So you know that the input came from a community calendar, and then you can find out if you're really making any progress or not. Those are just two thoughts, but it might be interesting to try and experiment with that. I'd be curious if anybody does it and get some results.
Cool, thank you. Looking at one of the other questions, Marcy, I'm taking your question. Marcy's question was on building a team. So do you have any recommendations for building teams, any assistance from Pathways projects? And Marcy, feel free to jump in and clarify, but if that explains the question, love to hear any answers to that.
One of the things that I've observed as a Toastmaster is a lot of people go into the roles and are not mentoring or taking someone else on to turn it. We take the responsibility and just do it all by ourselves. Therefore, if we can take a mentee under our wing or do something, specific projects where someone learns new skills and new abilities that are transferable, how can that help? And are there pathway projects that help? If I look, I believe it's level 4 says, podcasts, writing a blog post. These are all areas that connect. So has anyone had experience in building a team in their clubs? I know that I have, but I thought I'd put it out there and get somebody else to do it rather than me just answering my own question.
A team of one doesn't count.
I can probably add something real quick too. One of the things I've found when asking people to be on a team is it's helpful if it's not the only communication I have with that person. If I reach out to someone and say, hey, will you do this for me? And I've never talked to them before or rarely talked to them, I don't get very good responses. But if I have a relationship with them at some level, then they're much more responsive, especially for small tasks. One way to do that is signing up for BPM membership. And that means you meet everybody that's coming in the door, and you're in the opportunity to help them become a member and become established. And then when you need to go back to them later for some help, you've already provided assistance, you have a relationship, and you're more likely to get a yes on a team building exercise. Just a thought.
Thank you, Eric. Yep, go ahead.
I'm delighted to see your voice and hear your face, see your face and hear your voice again, Eric.
That's the first time anybody's ever said that to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's delightful to have you back in our midst and hear that. One of the things, and just to add that, I believe what's really important is to find out when we're building that relationship, what is that person's goal and objective? Because if we know that, and that's where I'm starting to, when I'm on LinkedIn now, my reply, I'm looking back to Cleon when he said he had a response to people. My thing is, what's your goals and objectives now in 2022? Every new person I'm contacting or anyone that I'm doing that, I'm coming back to find out, because if I can know what someone's goal is, maybe there's a way I can connect them with someone, or I can connect them with a project, or give them an idea that's going to help move them further along their path to get to where they dream of being.
I think one of my burning questions, and I think this is kind of tied to what Marcy talked about, and I'm going to specifically direct this to Cleon, if I may. I think one of the things, Cleon, you talked about was like using your personal connections, bringing one more person to the next meeting, and kind of like word of mouth, right? So sometimes I think, and I believe I represent a good number of people. Sometimes people have have reservations in terms of, what if I invite them, but they don't see value in the meeting? Like, am I going to embarrass myself, or I don't want to like overpromise and Toastmaster under delivers for them, or am I setting the right expectations? How do you deal with such reservations when you kind of try to spread the word about Toastmasters?
It does go through my mind, and I hear where you're coming from. This is where, going back to the club, why I'm trying to be soft on it, but you've got to get all of your members in tune so that they're doing the very best meeting they can do every time. And that's where you use your praise. That's where you use your evaluations. Even if you're not evaluating, you can send notes to people. That's perfectly it's okay in Toastmasters. So you tell them just some little thing you really liked. I mean, that's a case where I don't sit there and say, but I think you could do this better. It's just like, Eric, you really look different with that beard. It gives you a little bit of posture here. I like that. And then they're done. Be truthful. Don't lie. Just be truthful. And then, because you just got to encourage them. And then you have to do your best. You have to model. Do what you think should be done. And you just do your very best and hope it goes. I've been very lucky, not lucky, but I've got some great clubs that I belong to. And I've been to some, but sometimes somebody will be on the other side of town, and they'll always ask me when they come to my group or something, they say, so which is the best club you think I should join? I hate that question. I don't tell them that, because I'm thinking like, well, I got some good clubs over here, but it's a long drive. So I first will sometimes invite them to come visit our club. So I want you to just once come visit, and you get to see what a club does. And then we'll find you some clubs over where you live. And you go from that point. And only a few times, somebody says, I went to this club over here, and it's nice people, but boy, it's not near like the one you're in. I said, oh, okay. And then we'll start to work on it some more as to where can you commute to? Where can you travel to? Do you want to? I mean, my bottom line would be like, well, why don't you be part of the team that helps make it grow and get better? But that's not what they're interested in. I know that. So therefore, you can't have boilerplate for this stuff. You've got to be listening in depth, and then you have to look and tune it into each person. So many times people want to know, what's the spiel? What's the stick? What's the shtick that I can just feed out each time? The only thing I do like that is that little blurb I showed you. It's quick, simple, and I put it out. And like I say, 8 to 10% will come back and just ask the question. I don't know how many of them join, but at least they've been introduced to it. That's the game. Because I have crossed over many years now, people who will say, you know, I've heard about this a few times. Maybe I should check it out now. And I'm going like, this is the right time. Come on and visit. But I've spoken with thousands of people about it. I don't have any 10%. Well, thousands would be 100. So yeah, I've got credit for over a couple of hundred people. But the game to me is just to get them to come visit, because sometimes they'll visit, they're not going to do it, but they tell their best friend, you know, you should do this. And you'll never know that. But I've actually seen stuff like that. And I'm going like, oh, so you don't always get to see how it tracks back to where it was because of what you said or did.
That was helpful. Thanks, Cleon. Coming to the end of my slot, so I want to quickly, David, at some point I saw your hand raised. So I'll go to David real quick, and then I'll give it to Daniel, and then we will look at closing this section.
Well, one of my best successes team-wise is implementing a buddy coach mentor process. So rather than trying to jump somebody into being a mentor, have them be a buddy first, have them help the new member with the icebreaker, then a coach, then you help them through a level, and then they're working on their mentorship. So a progress like that, and we use the same technique for guests as well. We have a follow-up for each guest, and then once they've attended 2 or 3 meetings, then we have the maybe the VP membership make sure that they have an application with our information on it, and then finally it might be the VP education who might explain the education program to try to finalize it. But one thing that I've done that's been successful is I keep in contact with old members, and my home club has 5 new members that are previous Toastmasters, and that's a good way to build. Is people who have been Toastmasters before discover that being a Toastmaster again might help them go to the next level in their current job.
Thank you for that, David. And yeah, I think mentorship is one of Toastmasters' biggest value props. Daniel, I believe you. Okay, you good? Okay.
I'll pass.
Okay.
Go ahead and stay on track.
Okay, no worries. In that case, thank you all so much for the questions. Lots of great engagement, lots of really great opinions, feedback, ideas. Love the overall idea sharing. It was my pleasure hosting this table topic section. Now, and I want to quickly acknowledge Jim Robinson. Hello, I see you popped in. Okay, back to David.
Well, it's my turn to rotate it to Marcy to tell us what the general evaluator does, because this is kind of an unusual meeting where I'm wondering what the general evaluator is going to be doing. So take it away, Marcy.
I have the opportunity to work as general evaluator. I'm looking at the meeting overall, how it flows, how we interact, if there's synergy, are we engaging with each other, and are we providing value? And how that conversation goes, those will be the things I'm looking for, and providing some comments at the end of the meeting.
Okay. One of the things that we like to do when we have time, and I think we have time tonight, is go around and talk to each guest and have them tell something about themselves and what they saw in this meeting that is appealing to them. So I'm just going to pick a few names. Mega happens to be one who has visited before, but what do you think, Mega? Give us a minute.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with PR Masters. I'm glad you feel that I've already been here, but I think I've only been trespassing on your Facebook group so far. But there are a few familiar faces in the audience for me because I'm a member at Feedbackers in District 7.
Oh, okay.
So Cleon seems familiar. So does Matthew, whom I had the pleasure of losing to at the Area 96 evaluation contest last year, which I plan to change this year. But it's great to be here. And recently, I've also taken the position of VPPR at Feedbackers. So that gave me the final push to finally land at PR Masters, because I've been watching you, and I love the creativity, the professionalism, the warmth that the club exudes. And I've already picked up lots of good ideas. And I think the advice that I liked the best today was Eric's, to just do it, to just not think about what's the best step, but just to do it, to do whatever step comes to your mind. So thank you for that. And I'm sure to be back again.
Okay. Thank you, Mega. We haven't heard from John Gill. We haven't seen John Gill yet, but we have John Gill as a guest. Do you have a few things you'd like to say?
Hello there. Yeah, I've been following along all along. I was eating dinner, so that's why I was off camera. Very, very good meeting. I've been enjoying it so far, and just seeing what you guys have in mind of basics for VPPRs and that sort of thing. So it's been a good meeting.
Okay.
I have more to say.
All right. Thank you, John. We have another guest, Cheryl. Cheryl, what's your impression of the meeting?
Hi, everyone. I've visited before and connected with a few of you via LinkedIn and Facebook as a result of this opportunity here. I really want to give kudos to whatever behind the scenes changes were made that happened before I joined this particular meeting. And that is the speakeasy effect is what I would call it. When I first connected with PR Masters, very excited, love all the content and always have value when I get here. The last time I attempted, I think I spent a half hour trying to get logged in and find the link in the Evite and the Eventbrite and the the Facebook. And then this time though was so much smoother, and I just had to go onto Facebook and look under the group, which I've already joined, and the link was there. It was so much easier. And so whatever happened, I don't know, part of it was probably me as well. But it was a couple months ago, last time I tried, I was like, this is like the best club that everybody's heard about, but nobody could find the door to, or at least for me it was. I was like, it's a speakeasy. I can't get in. I know it's there. I just don't know how to get in, find the door. And so anyways, today was so much smoother and easier. So thank you to whoever was involved in streamlining that and cleaning it up. And so my biggest impression of the meeting was before I even arrived. So, but it helped me to get here and receive the content that you guys provided today.
Well, we have a key group of meeting planners who do a terrific job. They're working behind the scenes all the time. So I want to give a little praise to them, but I think I like the idea of having a club named Speakeasy. It has a good history to it anyway. There are no other guests at this point. Juanita does not want to speak because she had some dental surgery today and she prefers not to be seen or heard. So we will bypass her, but we invite her to come back at any time when it's more convenient for her. We have another special order of business we're going to work on today, which is called elections. And we have 2 officers who are planning on resigning, and it might actually turn out to be 3. But we have a club president who has had a conflict in her schedule, and it has taken over her life. And she wanted to step back and yield the space to other people because it's just too difficult for her to make the meetings and do all the work behind the scenes. And that's Andrea, who has been key to making things work. So with her resignation, we're going to have an open session for anybody who wants to nominate themselves to be president. We have already had one person self-nominate, and that is Matthew. and we appreciate that. But the floor is open for self-nominations or nominate a friend. They must be present to win. Are there any nominations? I will say that 3 times. Are there any further nominations?
Could we clarify the roles that are coming open, David, for everyone?
Okay, so the roles that will be open are president, vice president, education, and if one of the people who is elected to an office already holds an office, he or she may want to resign that office, that secondary office, so they're not occupying 2 offices. So, are there any further nominations, self-nominations? I do not see any hands raised. So we need to establish that we have a quorum, and our secretary is going to do that. Can you give us a quick status on our quorum?
Indeed, we have 14 active members present, 10 are
Okay.
absent, 3 are inactive, 14 out of 24 or 27 means we have met quorum.
Okay, so with a quorum defined as being a majority, which is 50% plus 1, we have met that requirement. So now of the 14 members we have, we can ask since there are no further nominations, I will entertain a motion to accept by acclamation. And if there are no objections.
David, I see Daniel's hand.
Yeah, Daniel. Okay, Daniel.
I so move.
Okay. So there is a motion on the floor to accept by acclamation. That does not require a positive vote, but if there's any negative votes, then we'll have a individual response from each voting member. Are there anybody who objects to accepting by acclamation? Well done, Matthew. You are the new club president. And I had planned on submitting my resignation as VP Education before our club president had announced hers. So we are entertaining self-nominations for VP Education. We have one that was made through email, and that is Marcy Field. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? We have somebody who wants to nominate Eric Winger. Eric Winger, would you accept the nomination? It has to have your concurrence.
Yeah, I want to know who nominated me so I can meet them in a dark alley later.
Well,
I'm happy to be a member. I don't think I can take on an officer role. I'm still cleaning up my father's effects.
Okay. Well,
so I will graciously decline, but thank you.
I won't tell you who it was, but he has only 3 letters in his last name. Moving on, are there any further nominations?
I have a question for the floor.
Okay, Daniel again.
Has Marcy accepted the nomination?
She nominated herself. So she has accepted my executive fiat. Okay, if there are no further nominations, I would entertain the motion to accept by acclamation. Do I hear?
I so move.
Okay, thank you. It does not require a vote. It asks for any negative votes. Is there anybody who objects to accepting Marcy as the VP Education? Okay, thank you very much. Marcy, you are the VP Education. My parting word as VP Education is remember to give PR Masters education credits within Pathways, and I'll write up a short article on how to do that. It's already well documented, but I will pass it on to make sure that we get our education credits, and then Marcy gets credit for that. Right now, there are only 2 people who have given education credits to PR Masters, me and Marcy. And I did the VP Education role and made sure that she got her credit. So now she's going to do the same for my next one. So with that, I don't have any further business, and I would like to open up to discussion Uh, I think Maren has something to say. Maren?
We now have an open position that needs to be filled. We have a
Oh.
sergeant at arms role.
Oh, I didn't ask Matthew. Matthew, are you going to continue as sergeant at arms?
If we have somebody who's willing to serve in that, it would be nice to have a full slate.
Okay. So in order to do that, you actually have to resign.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, in order to make that open. So will you continue as sergeant at arms? Yes or no?
If someone is interested in it, then I would resign. If they wouldn't, is somebody saying that they would do it?
I think
That's not going to fly with the parliamentarian, Matthew. You got to be decisive as president. Make a decision.
Yeah, really, we're all over this.
I resign as sergeant at arms.
Okay.
Woo!
You see me now, a quitter before you.
We now have a officer role open called sergeant at arms. Matthew, why don't you tell us what sergeant at arms does?
Sergeant at arms is responsible for handing out snacks to all the participants, making sure everybody has ice water. It's also really important that you give high fives to anyone who needs encouragement. And then the final piece is you have an opportunity to welcome people and make them feel like our guests. And fortunately with PR Masters, we do have guests who visit frequently, and so it's a fun role. It's just a way of being able to welcome people to the room and connect.
Yeah. So sergeant at arms is the meter and greeter. And nominations are now open for sergeant at arms. Do we have any nominations from the floor, or should we put up for a draft? You know, I think we can do it by lottery if nobody volunteers. I could start.
I will risk the dark alley, David.
Okay.
And I will recommend two folks, which I did put them in the chat, which would be Bill Mayer or Jennifer Schmidt. And now it's in their hands to say yes or no, but of course they want to do it.
Okay. So Bill Mayer or Mauer? I'm not sure. Mayer?
Yeah, one of those two. I don't know. Whichever one I answer to just about anything. I'm going to respectfully, although, Matthew, the way you described the role, it doesn't sound daunting. It doesn't sound very complicated, and I appreciate the nomination. But I'm going to respectfully say I'm just going to hold off for now, and maybe at a later time.
Well, one of the other roles that the sergeant at arms can do is actually learn to be a Zoom master. And a Zoom master gets you lots of experience and some praise and some other forms of commentary if you don't do a good job. So our second nominee I was looking for that. Who was it, Maren?
Jennifer Schmidt.
Yeah, Jennifer Schmidt. So Jennifer, who has been club president at various clubs at various times, right? And I think she's currently president at Yammer Time.
No. I was VP of PR of New Horizons.
Okay, all right.
And I hate to do this, but I have to decline as well because I'm in the middle of ramping up my business, and it's taking a long time. Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. I also see somebody else's name up there, a nomination for Joe Dudman. Would Joe Dudman have an interest in this? You have to concur.
First, I would like to, I think Emily was nominated before me, so let's ask Emily first. Before I decline.
I'll beat you to decline. As president of my other club, I have to, too much going on with that.
Well, when you meet in person, the sergeant at arms is actually a really fun job, and usually buys the first round of drinks after the meeting. But So that comes back to Joe.
I've been sergeant at arms when my club met live, and it was fun, but a lot of early morning responsibility for a morning club. So
Right.
if we, I don't think this club will ever be an in-person club,
Nope.
but so I think I'm going to decline, and possibly I'll nominate Daniel Brewer and see if he's interested and hand it off to him.
Okay, that's a good way to do it. Daniel, would you accept the nomination?
Joe, I know where you live. I'm a president of one club, and I am really concentrating hard on getting another club, a national club, chartered right now. And I am
Okay.
also starting a business of my own.
Oh.
So I also need to respectfully decline, plus I can't guarantee I can be at every meeting. So I appreciate the nomination and the confidence, but at this point, I have to respectfully take a pass.
Okay. How about, okay, well, I see one other nomination. My screen keeps bouncing around a little bit. Would Fred be interested? Where is Fred? There he is. Fred, number 2022.
Well, you're just gonna have to take both arms and keep twisting them, but you're not gonna have to twist them far. Since it's just a virtual club, I guess I'll accept the nomination since it's just virtual.
Hey,
Since I don't have to fly to that part of the country. I've
No.
got an American flag we can use if we ever need to
know.
use it, a virtual one.
Yeah.
And I need to learn more about Zoom anyway. So
Right. Well, keep on zooming. And so, are there any further nominations?
I do have a question though. Is
Okay.
someone going to enter this because our TLI is this weekend? Well, we have 3 of them, and I can take one of the Sergeant at Arms classes.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's actually, I think there's at least 3 Sergeant at Arms training sessions that are already scheduled on the District 7 calendar.
Yeah, but I'm in District 84.
Well,
you can.
You are welcome to come to our TLI training. You know, so. And I have actually gone to TLI training in other districts on other continents, actually.
We can make sure that Fred gets credit in his district, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make sure he gets his credit.
Yeah. Reason I went for another country is because they're on a different time zone, and it worked out for me. And so all we have to do is communicate back with the district director, and they take care of everything. So. Are there any further nominations? That's second round. Any further nominations? I will entertain a motion to accept by acclamation Fred Bergeron as our Sergeant at Arms.
I so move.
Okay, and are there any objections? Hearing none, thank you, Fred, for stepping up, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Now we are open for discussion. Any announcements of note that people have note? Okay, Marcy.
Well, thank you very much for your approval and your acceptance of me coming in as your VP Ed. Now, I have noticed a very interesting thing when I look at Easy Speak, and that some of you have not even done one speech on any path, or perhaps haven't even chosen a path. I would love to have those speeches come in. Happy to talk with you. Look for a phone call or actually probably an email with an invitation to a Zoom, because let's get this scheduled. We've got 5 meetings left. Let's make this a great year to end off for the next 5 meetings, because there's lots of wisdom in this room and we want to hear your story.
Thank you for that challenge. I will call it. We should all face up to a challenge. One of the challenges I really like to make is I'm not going to ask everybody to bring in a guest to the next meeting. I'm just going to ask you to invite someone to the next meeting. And you'll have to invite about 3 people before you get somebody who will accept. And of those 3 people who come to a meeting, maybe 1 out of 3 will actually join. So that's the multiple of 3, a triad. So just keep working on that triad. Every time you invite 3 people, you might get 1. And every time 3 guests show up, if we work it right, we might get 1 new member. Any other ideas, comments, suggestions, observations? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved, and we need a second. All right.
I so second.
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning, raise your hand. Good enough. This motion carries. We are adjourned. Now we're open for open mic. If somebody has a song that they want to sing, Jim, I think you can carry a tune.
Eric, are you back with us on a regular basis? Or are you just here as a guest panelist?
I was invited as a guest panelist. I hope to rejoin you at some point. I'm still up to my eyeballs in paperwork and stuff and legal stuff, and it's consuming a lot of my free time. But I have it on my radar, at least kind of thinking at the turn of the new Toastmasters year, but I might even visit a time or 2 before that. Just see how things flow.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
David, regarding your comment, no, I cannot carry a tune.
Oh, okay. It's worth a try. Yeah.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
I have 2 clubs that are full of members who are brand new to Toastmasters, and they are feeling completely overwhelmed and intimidated to the point where I can't get them to join and participate because they're afraid they're going to be, because they're afraid that they're going to be, they get on the pathways and it's intimidating. And I need to, does anybody have generally what you do is you pair them with somebody. When I joined Toastmasters, Kate Arnold was our VPM, and she introduced me to Eric Winger, and he became kind of my Toastmasters mentor and guided me through all of that. But when everybody is brand new, I don't know how to get people to really embrace the idea of, hey, it's cool to be a timer even if you don't know what to do, and we'll walk you through it. And anybody have any clues on this when there's not a whole lot of
What is there any way, Daniel, you could bring in mentors from outside the club?
It's been, I struggled for one of the clubs. I held a second demo meeting, and it was me, Joe, and Jim kind of doing all the roles. And so it's at a time in the morning when everybody's kind of working. So it's an industry club for the notary industry, but it's a good time for notaries. It's just not a good time for most people. Most people like to either meet before the day starts, during lunch, or at the end of the day. This one meets at 9:30 in the morning, and that's just a rough time for everybody that I know. So, and they'd have to be engaged every meeting too, to be a part of it. So I've tried to look inside the industry for people who are Toastmasters. There are a handful, and I'm trying to get them engaged, but it's pretty intimidating when you think about it. If you walk in and, you know, we've got roles to fill and we've got people doing this, and there's a lot of applauding, and then we're going to hand off to him, and what does he do, and it's fast moving, and you're sitting there and these guys are going, huh? When the speakers speak, it's great because they love to listen to the speeches, but the whole protocols and then the education, I haven't even started on pathways yet, and it's pretty intimidating. And I'm wondering if anybody's got any idea. I mean, the idea of bringing in people, it's good as long as they can be consistent. If I could assign some people some mentors, but I can't mentor everybody myself.
That's essentially why I came up with the buddy coach mentor program. So the buddy helps the person through the icebreaker, and they work. You can have a Zoom. You can get a Zoom session for yourself that's 40 minutes without paying any money. So anybody who registers can have a Zoom session for 40 minutes, and you just in 40 minutes you can walk somebody through the process of going through the icebreaker. And once you get somebody to do that, then you need somebody to make that longer commitment, and that's where the coach comes in. The coach is for typically 2 or 3 speeches beyond the icebreaker, or maybe for that first level.
But it's me and 15 newbies. So, I mean,
yeah.
And Daniel, do you have a second club sponsor and a couple people who can come in as club mentors for the first 6 months?
I do not have a second club sponsor that is participating. I have one that has signed on as a sponsor who hasn't attended since the second meeting, but we only meet twice a month. So,
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask some people who got your hands up. I'm going to ask Cleon. I always get good advice from Cleon, and then the rest of you.
Thank you. I guess my question is you were saying something about I thought I heard you saying something about the mentor of the coach being active and in the club. You mean during the meetings all the time?
No, they haven't attended since our first official meeting.
No, but you're looking for people, and you say that did you think they needed to be there if you got some outsiders?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they need to be there every week so they can if we're going to partner them up. But this is an industry club too. It's everybody is a notary public that's in this club, and so I mean, if you and I are partnered up, you're not going to know half of the nomenclature that I talk about if I speak.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out how I can gradually get into this. So, anyways.
Well, I like, who is it that suggested that? I would agree with them. Get a couple of people who even take one person on. To help the one person, one at a time, because it actually goes pretty quick. Because the mentoring session, when you talk to people, you don't have to spend a lot of time. And you mentioned, this is interesting, you mentioned the nomenclature. To me, it has nothing to do with it. It's all about the presentation skills and how to build your self-confidence. So I don't see a problem with that. So we can help them to let them know what they're aiming for in their projects, and there's some suggestions, and they can do what they want. But you just kind of listen to them and help them along and say, because I don't do a lot of speech evaluations at that point. It's like, just get in there and do it.
Right. That's good.
But I mean, I'm not volunteering at this moment, but I can help with something like that, especially today on Zoom.
Yeah. Well, it's a national club too, so it goes clear across the country. So that's helpful too.
Right.
Marcy?
I believe actually, David, that one-on-one you can go as long as you want. I've done it.
Oh, I have too, but they say 40 minutes. But unless they're busy, they won't cut you off. But I have been cut off at 40 minutes. But
if you've got a group, if you've got a third person in there, then they'll cut you off.
Yeah.
Most of these people have their own Zoom sessions. It's part of their business. So
right.
So what I'd like to suggest that works is we've run boot camps for some when we've had new clubs and new members coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And just perhaps you've got your regular meetings where you're doing, but change the focus and do one that might be a boot camp and just focus on what the other roles are. Because what I heard you say is that they were unwilling to take on the meeting roles. It was where you were having some of the challenges that did I hear that correctly?
they ultimately take them on, but I have to twist their arm, and then they're always worried that they're going to do it wrong.
Okay, so I really think that if you do a video, do one session that is just on meeting roles and record it, and then they could have that. And I noticed that someone said here that they have cheat sheets, and all of our roles have explanations for it that you could give it. I also really agree with whoever mentioned you need to have if you're ready to charter, because you're close to your 20 people for chartering, find out if you can find people that are interested in having their club mentoring for their DTM. If there are people within your district that are available, and ask them to come in and start providing that support now, would be the other recommendation that I would have. And once again, even though it works within that time frame, I do a reach out, even in Toastmasters, the international comment fan page, and say, I have a need for this. Do you have availability at this day, at this time, to just help people that are brand new to doing it? So once again, going back to the beginning of our meeting, I heard someone say that, ask for help, but ask outside of your normal circles.
Joe?
Well, this might be sort of blasphemous as far as Toastmasters, but I would say maybe for a couple meetings, step back from the normal meeting format and just talk, just discuss among the club members and describe what Toastmasters is, how you got into it, what it was like for you when you started, and just find out what their concerns are, what they're nervous about, and just have a discussion. Find out why they're there, what they want to learn, and don't launch right into the structure of the meetings and pathways. Just describe from a step back what Toastmasters is, what the structure is, but maybe don't launch into the structure and get them thinking about pathways right away, but have a few meetings where you just discuss things, talk things over, explain how it works, explain what it was like for you when you were starting out, and express some of the nervousness you had at first and how things improved for you. What
That's good, Joe.
Things that you found fun about it once you got into it, things that you found rewarding about it, and don't try to force the structure right away, maybe. And eventually, when they get more comfortable, you can get into the meeting agendas, the roles more formally. Then you can get them interested in pathways, but
add them gradually. That's
gradually. Just take a step back and talk about things in a less formal way for a couple meetings, and pretty soon they'll probably get a lot more comfortable with it. So that would be my advice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another approach might be to invite a guest speaker, external, and then have round robin evaluations. So everybody gets comfortable with that. Another meeting, make it table topics. So just kind of pick pieces out of the regular meeting and then expand on them for the entire meeting.
Wow. Thanks, everybody. I didn't mean to steal the whole thing here. Thank you.
Jim has a recommendation. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to build on a little bit of what Joe just said, that but I have a little bit different take on it, in that a lot of times what I see is not someone hesitant to take a role because they don't understand the role, but they're hesitant to take the role because they haven't fully committed themselves to the whole process yet. And when people really see, like what Joe was saying, when they learn about what got you into Toastmasters and made you really flourish, what you got out of Toastmasters, when people start seeing the potential of what they can learn and they start realizing what it can do, then they get more excited about it. When they get that excitement, they're willing to take on any role, even if they don't understand it yet. And they're willing to dive into the pathways more because they're starting to see, oh, I see there's some real benefit here. There's some things I can do. Once they recognize that and start really buying into the whole process, they start diving into those roles a lot more. So maybe it's less about teaching them the roles and more about exciting them and getting them inspired to actually take stuff on.
Well, thank you guys very much. And those are great ideas. Thank you.